How you doing there, Miss Tran? Yeah, it is.
Okay, here we go. Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you to the December 3rd, 2019 regular board meeting of Everett Public Schools Board of Directors. If you would please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May I please have the secretary call the roll?
President Andrews, Vice President Mason,
Present.
Director Mitchell, Director Lassane,
Present.
Director Nankar,
Present.
Student Representative Tron,
Present.
Student Representative Hussein.
Present.
Thank you. Our first item of business is the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Salzman, may you please introduce tonight's agenda?
Yes, thank you. Tonight's agenda contains an alternative meeting structure to accommodate the board's annual organization meeting. It also includes the superintendent's report, a segment for public comments, 2 segments for routine business, a segment for strategic progress monitoring, a segment for unfinished business, a segment for new business, and upcoming agenda items. Since publishing the agenda, the following changes have been made. Item 4.01, adoption of the agenda. The timing sheet was added. Item 6.01, administration of oath of office. The name of the officiant was corrected. Item 8.01, superintendent's report. The report was added. Item 11.07, approval of the Everett Public Schools and Everett Association of Paraeducators Letter of Agreement. Word was changed in the letter of agreement from revise to replace. The board may elect to change the order of business by majority vote of the members.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
It has been moved by Director Lassane and seconded by Director Nankar. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we will move to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The agenda is adopted. The second item of business tonight is the consent agenda. This evening we have 2 consent agendas on the agenda due to the order of business and election of new directors. So, Dr. Salzman, can you introduce our first consent agenda?
Yes, ma'am. The first part of tonight's consent agenda includes meeting minutes from the last board meeting so that the current board may vote on those minutes before the new board takes office.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
There a second?
Second.
It has been moved by Director Mitchell and seconded by Director Nankar to adopt the consent agenda. Would any director like to remove an item from the consent agenda and place it in new business section of the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, no. The motion carries. Our next item of business is the annual organization meeting. The first regular meeting in December is the Board of Directors Annual Organization Meeting. April Berg has been elected to the board, and Representative John Lovick is here to administer her oath of office. At this time, I'd like to invite Representative John Lovick and April Berg up in front of the podium and have the directors step down and join us, please. And student representative, sorry. I just include you as one of us.
You're part of the board.
Tracy, you need to be behind them so I can get y'all in the picture. Jamien, can you go over next to Caroline, please?
So good evening. I want to thank you for the honor of administering the oath of office. If you will raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, April Berg, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington, and that I will faithfully and impartially perform and discharge the duties of the office of Everett School District 2. Of the duties of the office of Everett School District 2. Director at Large, Position 2. For a 6-year term. According to the law. To the best of my ability. Offer my congratulations.
That'll make it official, right?
Family, come on up. Come on up. Yeah.
Bless you.
Nothing was done until.
Holy cow. Good thing this isn't a video. All right, look up at me, please. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Nice. Thank you.
Congratulations. Okay. Oh, you're
We'll switch around at break time.
Well, now we switch around, right?
Okay. Before we move on, it is my honor to welcome April Bird as the new Director at Large, position number 2, Everett Public Schools. Okay, continuing with our annual organization meeting, the next item of business is election of board president. I would like to at this time call for nominations for president to serve during the 2020 school year, or 2020 calendar year. Are there nominations?
Madam Vice President, I'd like to nominate a person for board president, and that person would be Caroline Mason.
Thank you.
And I would like to second that.
Thank you. Are there any additional nominations?
Just for the president
Yes, for the
position.
president.
Yeah.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to call for a roll call vote for the position, for the election of president.
You'd have to close the
Make a
nomination.
motion.
Thank you. That was not in my notes earlier, sorry. Is there a motion to close the nominations for board president?
So moved.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to close the nominations for board president. At this time,
All those in favor?
all those in favor? No vote? Okay. At this time, we will take the roll call vote. Thank you, Jamie.
All right, Director Berg?
Yes, or an affirmative.
You have to say
I think
name.
we say names.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, that's okay.
Say my name.
Say who you want for president.
Oh, Caroline Mason.
Director Mason?
Caroline Mason,
Director Mitchell?
honored.
Caroline Mason, thankful.
Director Lasane?
Caroline Mason.
Director Nankar?
Caroline Mason.
Okay. I believe we are done with the election of board president. I want to say thank you, and I am honored to serve. At this time, I'd like to looking at Darlene. I can continue, correct? Okay.
Yes.
At this time, I'd like to take nominations for the election of board vice president.
I would like to nominate Pam Lasane as Board Vice President.
I would like to second that nomination. Are there any other additional nominations for board vice president? Hearing none, I would like to call for a motion for the election of Director Pam Lasane as board vice president.
So moving to close the nomination?
I think so moved.
So moved.
Second.
And then we will now move to roll call vote.
Director Berg?
Pam Lasane.
Director Mason?
Pam Lasane,
Director Mitchell?
Pam Lasane?
Director Lasane?
you have to vote for yourself. It's very awkward, I know. Well, you don't have to.
After, yeah.
Pamela Singh.
Director Nankar?
Pamela Singh.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes the vote for board vice president. We now move to election of board parliamentarian. Is there a nomination for board parliamentarian?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
What do I say this? The prior superintendent had acted as our board
Our current
parliamentarian.
board parliamentarian is Director Nankar, and hearing no,
Okay.
if there are no nominations at this point, it defaults to the superintendent.
I would like to nominate for a board parliamentarian as an opportunity to learn the business of parliamentarian. I would like to nominate Director April Berg.
Excellent. Is there a second?
I second.
Oh, no, I call for additional. Are there, I apologize, it's a little rusty. We haven't done this in 6 years, and I didn't do it that first time, so. I think I need to call for additional nominations for board parliamentarian. Are there any? Hearing none, then we need to, is there a motion to nominate April Berg as board parliamentarian?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, at this point, we will move to a roll call vote, please.
Director Berg?
April Berg.
Director Mason?
April Berg?
Director Mitchell?
April Berg?
Director Lasane?
April Berg.
Director Nankar?
April Berg.
Excellent. I believe at this time, congratulations to April Berg, Director Lasane. Look forward to a productive 2020. And at this time, we're going to take a short 5-minute break and do a quick reorganization of the director's seating and then get back to business. We're moving.
Which is that spot.
Where were our sign-up sheets? Oh. I mean, I'm fine with someone speaking, I just,
Okay,
It's
this
Jeff
time
Russell.
I need to do my homework. First, like 3 days.
yeah, that's why, I was gonna say I'm fine with it, but,
Just play. Just play.
Yeah, I know.
Work hard for exactly. It's like
Yeah, I know.
it's focusing
Yeah,
on-
middle school stuff for girls that age. Mine's in 7th.
I'm just gonna say.
Yeah, he's in 7th. I can't believe so.
Yeah. Oh,
Right,
that's
that's
a
why
good
you were.
idea.
Right. That's why you were. Ceremonial. Public hears on TV, covers TV.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started again here. We are on section 7.0 recognitions, and there are no recognitions scheduled for this evening, which takes us to the superintendent's report. Dr. Salzman.
Okay, good evening, and to our public again, welcome back from Thanksgiving vacation and break, and to congratulate our new board member, April Berg, and our vice chair, Captain Lassane, and to our chair, Caroline Mason. Congratulations. So we welcome you, and looking forward to a prosperous 2020. First, what I'd like to say is I'd like to, again, thank everyone for Thanksgiving break. This is Kelly Shepard, outstanding principal, who does it all for her kids. There's nothing that she doesn't do for her children, okay? So I just want to call her out, and she was celebrating Thanksgiving. They had a wonderful meal at her campus. Next slide. Most every school supports some kind of drive to collect donations for their community. We have so many successful food drives going on to support our community, and that just shows the great leadership by teachers, principals, and members of our team that give back to our community every day. Are you prepared for the cold weather? If I am, you are. Okay? We want everybody to know what to do if schools have a late start or a close. So we've been sending out increased communications using all our social media opportunities. So we want our community to be in the know, so there's no surprises. And let's continue to hope for beautiful weather that we have in the great Pacific Northwest. Yesterday was National Special Education Day. This day marks the anniversary of our nation's first federal special education law, which President Gerald Ford signed December 2nd, 1975. Thank you for our teachers, our paraeducators, our administrators who educate and provide support to all children. And a shout out to Becky Clifford, who does an amazing job working with our special ed population. And she does a fantastic job not only with our teachers, but to our parent community. So we thank Becky Clifford for the work that she does every day. And finally, we continue our iReady push of greatness for reading comprehension and math work. Plory, the fun character from iReady, recently visited Emerson Elementary School and Jefferson Elementary School. And boy, were the kids excited. And that's what it's all about. If the kids are excited for learning, learning takes place. So to those outstanding principals and administrators of both schools, thank you and great work. Thank you for my report tonight.
Thank you. I love that picture of Kelly. That's great. Okay, this is the time we're moving on to section 9.0, which is board comments. And this is an opportunity for directors and student representatives to share information and comments as it relates to their work with the district. And we set aside 15 minutes of time to do this, which, let's see, there's 7 of us, so that's about 2 minutes each or so. I know some of us have been very busy lately with conference, and there's a lot to share, but to be conscientious of everyone's time, if we can be concise, that would be great. And I'm going to start all the way down at the far end tonight, if I could, with Amina.
Okay, so a while back, we had breakfast with Dr. Saltzman, and we talked about ASB and how students don't really know who is in their ASB and who to talk to. So Dr. Salzman said at his school or his old school in like Florida, they would do things like do a breakfast where kids would come and they would give out cereal and pancakes to kids, and the kids would also at the same time talk about their issues. And I brought that up with my ASB, and they thought it was a really good idea, so hopefully that's in the planning. And yeah, that's just really exciting.
Thank you. Student Representative Tran.
As Dr. Saltzman mentioned about the food drives going on in the district, Cascade kicked off our 58th annual food drive the end of last week. And at Cascade, we gather up in our first period classes and we compete against other first period classes to collect as many cans, gifts, and money and hunger bag donations from local grocery stores. So we go canning and ask community members and shoppers to donate if they are able to. And so very excited to compete against the other classes. And it's a great way for such a big school in a diverse community to come together to help others. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Director Berg.
Yeah, so it's actually been kind of a busy couple weeks. Love going to WASDA boot camp, meeting with school districts, 290 school districts from all over the state. The conference was amazing. The boot camp was great because there is a wonderful onboarding tool now for WASDA, so they will adequately train me as a new board director, which was awesome. But really what stood out to me was just a focus on two things. One was equity work that's going on in so many of our districts, and two was really some interesting ideas about the 24 credit goals that we all now have to adhere to and how to get there, and some really good discussions on competency-based credits. And that was, I took away some meaningful things that I'll put into paper. Lastly, I spent part of this week volunteering at Heatherwood in their amazing lunchroom store for kids who can shop for parents and other people in their household where they normally couldn't shop for them. I guess that's the best way to say it. So the team there at Heatherwood put together an amazing store for parents to volunteer and help the kids shop for loved ones in their household. And it just shows how all of our schools are thinking about folks who are in need this season, our high schools with their food drives and our middle schools with their stores.
We'll start with welcoming Director Berg to the Everett School District. I was able to attend just one day of the WASDA conference and was floored by the speaker, particularly because ever since our superintendent has come, he's been talking about this particular subject from day one, climate and culture, and to hear the affirmation by the keynote speaker was very empowering. Lots of talks about academics surrounding just empowering your teachers to build relationships and work around equity and also a balance of life and the work teachers do. But I'm in the presumption that this might be my last board meeting. I wanted to take the opportunity to also thank all the people that have touched my life at the school district, and also for your patience and not coming from this educational background. This was really informative. Even though it was a year, there was lots of learning, and I'm really amazed at the dedication of the staff, the work that you guys do continuously, and very proud of having this association with the district, and then also good luck on the bond. I do really hope our citizens, our voters, look at it as not as a tax, but as an investment in the community, because with good schools, you attract good people that want to live in the communities. And with that, it is an investment in the community. You have better communities. And so it's just not about whether I have a kid in the school district. So that's what I had. So thank you.
Thank you.
It was lovely getting to meet April at the WASDA conference. And I just want to give a thank you to the community who attended Adam's Family. It was their record-setting musical, if I heard that correctly. And also the students in the nature of giving with their food drive, toy drive. Cascade always blows everybody away, so thank you. That the kids elected to give a $600 gift to Cocoon House in lieu of giving a present to the drama coach, which I thought was very generous of the students. At the WASDA conference, just two high points that I took away was that we have the beginnings of a Black Family Alliance here, or a parent group here in the district, but one of the winners of the District of the Year, University Place, has a Black Family Alliance that's multi-district. And I thought that, how do we, with the kids that are in Mukilteo, maybe Marysville, make the group bigger, stronger to grow our entire community? I thought that was an interesting opportunity for us to really serve a broader community with that. The second thing is I was at the people that manage our bond information, and they were talking about the bonds, likely Piper Jaffray, thank you. And something that brought to my attention that I noticed is they have a calendar of all the ballots times, is that the presidential ballot primaries is March 10th, and we do have a primary, so ballots will be mailed March 10th. And I said, and we're going to have our ballots a couple weeks later for our bond. So somehow, how do we get the message out of vote twice so people don't think they voted in March, and why are they voting again in April? So I think that's an interesting challenge that we're going to have. And then today I was able to go to Everett High and get a little hands-on with Naviance from a student's perspective, get a student's login with Sarah Pewitt and then Kathy Woods, and it was lovely, laryngitis and all. And also talk to some students, seniors and juniors, about their experience with Naviance, colleges they've applied to, military that they've signed up for, and then see it, because my daughter, and I shared with all of them, my daughter does not show me her Naviance, and so it was sort of nice to see the student perspective and have kids who shared it with me, and then a young man that said he and his mom are working on it together. And that just warmed my heart that a young man could work with his mom when my daughter won't work with me. So thank you.
Had the opportunity of attending 2 instructional reviews, one at Cascade High School and one at Silver Lake Elementary School. And I must say, shout out to thank you for all the administrators who helped put all of those together. And please pass on my thank yous to the staff at the schools, because their work is outstanding and they did a fantastic job. And I know it's very hard to teach a class, because we have students that we know they don't like to have parents or other people walk through their classrooms, but we walked through several classrooms at both high school and elementary school in the process of doing the instructional review, and I know that could be sometimes terrifying for some people. So thank them both, please, that, both schools for me, that they did an outstanding job, and very creative classrooms. I also had the opportunity of attending WASDA conference. I attended 4 sessions on student well-being, 2 sessions on educational equity, and 1 on strategic advocacy. And I must say, this particular conference was geared toward primarily those 3 themes. We had the Washington State Teacher of the Year, Robert Hand, present a session that I attended on student well-being, but also did a general session on resilience and people before productivity. We also had Erin Jones, who spoke of moving from diversity to equity, and we had John Norland, who talked about creating a culture of connections. And one thing I did learn, that the themes are interrelated, is that it's more about building connections and relationships in school, and how important it is for us to establish a welcoming environment for our students, because those students who can build those relationships with their teachers, build a connection to education, will go very far in their education and have a tendency not to drop out or get detoured, but have show the drive and perseverance to continue, and the resilience to continue their education and whatever they want to do in life. So one of the things that I'm bringing back is the need to focus in on those three themes for the upcoming year and how we're working on building that connection, that culture of welcoming, that, you know, continuing to build. Not that we haven't, we have done. We've done a lot of work in that area, but that we need to continue doing that for our students. That's very vital to keep them connected to school and connected to people who care for them.
Thank you. I think most of what I had to say about the WASDA conference has been captured. I will concur with Director Nankar's comments. The guest speakers, the keynote speakers were incredible this year, I thought. They were very powerful. And I guess my key takeaway from listening to the different breakout sessions is I heard a lot of language that we're beginning to use with the transition to a new superintendent. And it really made me realize that the work that we're doing and some of the shifts that we've made are really aligned with sort of the best practices in education right now and where districts are moving. And it is very much about building character and relationships. And I tell you, for a conference and, you know, breakout sessions, and you think it's all going to be kind of dry. There were so many heartfelt stories that were presented from keynotes and leaders in the breakout sessions. I mean, I really was choked up so much throughout the day. It was like the WASDA conference, which was kind of an odd experience. And then lastly, I did get to go to the Everett High instructional review, and I think everyone in this room knows that maybe Everett High is a special place for me. And it's just really fun. I feel like I feel very honored to have a seat at the table and to actually get a peek into the work that's being done at that level. It is a very different experience than anything that I've had in the previous 6 years of just sort of oversight. And it's just been so incredibly informative to me. So really appreciate those opportunities. So with that, we're going to move on. Next is our second consent agenda. Dr. Salzman, will you please introduce this more lengthy consent agenda?
Okay, do you have any public comments?
Oh, thank you. I missed that one. Sorry. We're going to back up. And so do we have public comments this evening? We have one speaker. Okay. Apparently the paperwork wasn't processed by 4:30, and there's been a request to make an exception given the sort of uncharacteristic nature of tonight's agenda, given the elections and such. We're going to make an exception this time, but did want to note that it is our policy that we accept board comments up until 4:30 when the school board meeting begins. So don't have a name, so I'm just going to invite our guests to the lectern here and give an introduction. The board recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of involving members of the public in its meetings. Good evening. On behalf of the board, I'd like to welcome you. I'm guessing you may know how this portion of the meeting works, but let me just give you the quick rundown.
Vaguely familiar.
All comments are recorded and will be made available for future viewing by the board and the public. You have 3 minutes to make your comments. The green light signals the beginning, the yellow light signals your 30 seconds left, and the red lets us know that you're wrapping up or finished. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and please introduce yourself to the board.
Thank you, Director Mason. Good afternoon, Board of Directors and Superintendent Salzman. My name is Jeff Russell. I work at Everett High School, and with me is Joel Vincent, who works at Jackson High School. But we're here on behalf of the ECEA, the Everett Coaches and Extracurricular Association. Both Joel and I are in the leadership of that association, and we're part of the bargaining committee, bargaining team that struck a deal with the administration's bargaining team in October. Our membership approved that tentative agreement overwhelmingly in November, And today you have an opportunity to vote on that agreement in the consent agenda. And it took us 8 excruciating sessions over 6 seemingly endless months, so it had better be a good contract, you should think. And I'll have to say, there was a lot of admiration at the beginning of the process, but that was a long time. It got a little, no, I'm just joking. And certainly the fondness for each other immediately returned when a deal was struck. We're very happy with this agreement. We think it makes great progress in some significant areas for our membership and also the district, particularly in the area of robotics that is really important to our schools, both in terms of academics and building a sense of belonging. And we think a foundation has been laid to provide strong leadership in that area for years to come. We're also very pleased with the compaction of the salary schedule with clarification around things like membership and dues and a great number of items that are present there. So we respectfully ask you to approve that tentative bargaining agreement, if for no other reason that we do not want to sit down at the table again, at least for another 3 years. We also come asking your attentiveness in the coming months. If you take a look at the agreement, on the very last page, there is a memorandum of understanding that pertains to a special study, and that study has to do with the addition of an assistant baseball softball coach for each of our teams at the high school level. That study will take place in the very near future, and you'll get a chance to receive that sometime before March the 1st. This is an important item for our membership. We feel it's a matter of safety, an issue of instruction, but look forward to the outcome of that as well. And lastly, I want to say thank you to you for your leadership in supporting coaching and supporting, more importantly, in supporting athletics and extracurricular activities. We all know that those things support academics, they support the sense of belonging in a school, and most importantly, they support our leadership of helping students live the kind of lives that they deserve to live. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your comments. Okay, with that, now we move on to our second consent agenda. Dr. Salzman.
Thank you. The board's consent agenda includes repetitive business items such as meeting minutes, personnel actions, expense vouchers, surplus lists, gifts, grants, and recurring contracts. Sometimes it includes items that occur less frequently but are of a routine business nature. These items are usually reviewed by the board in the Friday report, 1 or more weeks before the board meeting. This gives directors time to ask staff questions or to consider discussion about the policy implications of those items. The board votes on the consent agenda in a single motion. By its definition, a consent agenda is not debatable. In the case of this consent agenda, the superintendent's office has received no questions or comments regarding these items. Therefore, the consent agenda is presented as published for board approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Director Lassane and seconded by Director Mitchell to approve the consent agenda. Would any director like to move an item from the consent agenda to the new business section of the agenda? Hearing none, we will move to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. All those abstaining?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. And the consent agenda is approved. Thank you. Next item of business is Section 12.0, Strategic Progress Monitoring. And tonight we have the opportunity to get an update on the class of 2020's progress to graduation. We have Kathy Woods. Do you have a voice?
No, not very much.
Oh, you do not.
But I have a microphone.
Hopefully you have Mr. Golden there to back you up.
So thank you. for having us here this evening to talk about the progress to graduation for the class of 2020. There will actually be 3 of us presenting. I will present sort of an overall picture of all of our students. And then Becky Clifford will present for our students with disabilities, students in special education, and Chad Golden will present for our EL students. And there'll be time for questions as well. So our objectives tonight, you can see, to report on developments and our monitoring of on-time graduation. And of course, our goal is always that 100% of students graduate. We'll present graduation rates for the classes of 2019 and 2018 that we've just sent to OSPI in the last few weeks. And then we'll look at the class of 2020, and then we'll move on to next steps and do a summary at the end. For our class of 2019, we just submitted our graduation rates to OSPI in November, reporting our highest on-time graduation rate on record at 95.9%. And for the class of 2018, our highest ever 5-year graduation rate at 96.5%. OSPI has not yet published the state rates or the rates of other districts or reported our own subgroup data, except for our graduations for students with disabilities. So we're expecting that data as soon as tomorrow, if OSPI releases it when they said they were going to. For our class of 2020, they're the last class of students who are required to complete 22 credits for graduation. And as Director Berg alluded to earlier, beginning with the class of 2021, students will be required to earn 24 credits to graduate. So our on-time graduation team includes the deputy superintendent, the regional superintendents, directors of programs and curriculum areas, technology and facilitators, and success coordinators, as well as the principals of our high schools. We meet regularly, and our focus is on the cycle of continuous improvement. The schools also conduct their own local graduation teams, reviewing their own students, student by student, ensuring that the students are on track to graduate. For our team, we focus at the beginning of the school year on the status of the seniors and reflect on our work from the previous school year. What worked, what didn't work, what are we going to try that we believe will make a difference this year. Then we begin to focus more, we focus on this all the time, but we have a special focus on those students in grades 9 through 11, emphasizing early interventions and 9th grade transitions to high school. In particular, we're focusing on the need for students starting with the class of 2021 to earn 24 credits and graduate college and career ready with a clear post-secondary plan, which is their high school and beyond plan. And there's been significant new emphasis on that with the new state law. After grades are posted from first semester, we evaluate the progress to graduation for all grades, focusing on high-level leverage strategies. And then in late spring, it's all hands on deck, and it's the runway to graduation and summer transition. For students who will not graduate in June, our district and school teams work collaboratively to put together an intensive graduation plan for the summer. Excuse me. For the next 2 slides, we're going to look at student status to graduation. Solid red means that they are on track to graduate for their credits as well as their assessments. Yellow is the same, they're on track. I'm sorry, green is on track. I got it.
Water, okay.
Green is on track for credits and assessments. Yellow, they are on track, but they have missed 1 or 2 classes. And red means they need something else to make up. That's all right. Where it's not solid, they have not met 1 or more assessments. So you can see it's very similar to what it was at this time last year. Oh, thank you, Debbie. Okay. So here you can see by subgroup, the class of 2020 shows similar gaps overall in terms of red, yellow, and green that there was in previous years. African American students in the green and having met all assessments increased, however, from 23.7%. Sorry. The previous year to 37% this year. The class of 2020 includes significantly more students identifying as Hispanic or Latinx compared with last year, and fewer students who identify as Asian. I got 2 slides left. I got it. The reduction in dropouts overall has been one of the very important steps in increasing our graduation rates. You can see the dramatic reduction in those dropout rates. And it continues even as that number gets much smaller. And here it is graphically. Key to our reduced dropouts and increased graduation rates are the interventions we have to support students to and through graduation. Much of our moving forward work is just working the work. It's highly nuanced as we continue to work student by student and move forward with graduating our students college and career ready. You see that top bullet, I think several of you mentioned it with the WASDA conference. It really is about building relationships and working student by student. And now I'm very glad to turn it over to Becky Clifford.
Thank you, Kathy, Board of Directors and Superintendent. I would like to share that over the past 5 years, we've worked hard at increasing our graduation rates for students with disabilities. We're really proud this year to have both our 4- and 5-year graduation rates above 80%, 84.2%, and 88.7% respectively. We've outperformed the state as well as many similar and larger size districts. This slide demonstrates seniors from 2018 and 2019 across a range of special ed programs and services. And our efforts have been focused on students accessing their least restrictive environment, and we are pleased to see more seniors accessing resource services and a decrease in students accessing Achieve, Extended Resource, and SLP services. Knowing that our largest programs are Resource and Achieve, this demonstrates the percentage of students on track for graduation. While at this time we are hovering about a 1/3% of our students in both programs identified as on track, we have a plan for each student and expect that these percentages to significantly shift as students prepare to graduate. This also reinforces the need to continue the work we are doing to support students earlier in their schooling career. Our focused efforts start with our 2 success coordinators that provide targeted supports to their assigned schools and assists those schools with student interventions and progress monitoring. Additionally, we have ongoing training to deepen secondary case managers and efforts to align those high school and beyond plans with students' IEPs, as well as dedicated support to high school teams for incoming 9th graders for earlier progress monitoring and interventions. And finally, we are expanding our community partnerships. We're very proud of the successful launch of Project Search to provide goal 18 to 21 services on site at Providence Hospital. We hosted our first community partnership breakfast in October to celebrate and increase our partnerships. We've also brought together our Strive 18 to 21 families and employment specialists to deepen supports for students who struggle to access employment when they graduate. And for next steps, we are deepening and expanding our current practices, intentionally fostering dual credit opportunities, planning for equitable access to graduation pathways, and increasing students' access to and participation in general education environments. And lastly, I want to share that this picture is a picture of our students who are thriving in the Project Search program. So now I'll hand it over to Dr. Chad Golden.
Good evening. I'm happy to share our information and data related to our English learner progress to graduation. Here you can see on the graph for 4- and 5-year graduation rates from 2014 through 2019. Over time, we have seen an increase with just a slight 4-year grad rate decrease 2018 and 2019. Here you can see English learner enrollment for each of our high schools from October 2015 through October of this year. You'll notice a jump at Cascade from 184 students in 2018 to 230 in 2019, while Everett and Jackson are consistent at 135 and 136 respectively. On this slide, we look at languages spoken by our English learners, with 45% speaking Spanish, followed by 7% Arabic, 7% Vietnamese, and 6% Russian. And the other 33 language represent about 14%. This is our English learner red, yellow, green status for the class of 2018, 2019, 2017 through 2019. In October, our current 164 EL seniors, 35 which were emerging, showed 54% green, 16% yellow, and 30% red. Our support for ELs in secondary focus on ongoing professional development for scaffolded teachers, EL teachers, and paras, and most recently professional development and support in sheltered instruction observation protocol, or SIOP. EL success coordinator time was increased at each of our high schools, and support for curriculum implementation with Language Live, National Geographic, and Springboard is ongoing. We also provide summer school to support our English learners. Our next steps include support for implementation of the curriculum, continuing to build and support scaffolded classes, building capacity for all of our teachers working with our English learners, including SIOP professional development and support. And now I would like to welcome back Kathy to summarize and wrap us up.
So I think what we've demonstrated is that continued focus and the continued need for student by student focus and intervention. We have a wide variety of strategies and resources, and a need for those earlier interventions, both in the high schools and, as Dr. Salzman has pointed out, in the earlier grades as well, to improve not only on-time graduation, but college and career readiness. Becky really talked a lot about developing those stronger connections to pathways after high school graduation. I think about our special education students who, by law, and because it's the right thing we do, we keep them with us for 7 years, but we continue to make sure that we're doing that high school and beyond planning to get them college and career ready. And we've also described a lot of growth and curriculum support for EL students. That was new this year. So thank you. That's all the presentation we have for you. But we do want, and really, I can do this. So if you have questions for us, please feel free to ask.
Or perhaps some of your colleagues could come up and help support the question answering. Give you a break there. Thank you to you three for a great report overview. Directors, our student representatives, does anyone have questions?
A couple of questions, if that's okay. First I want to congratulate Becky and your team, as well as all the other teachers in the district, because I did see Senators Wellman and Mullet speak at WASDA, and they did talk about the gaps in special ed funding. And I do believe, I didn't write it down, but is the state graduation rate about 50%? So outstanding work. Should be at 83. I mean, that's just outstanding. And they were kind of embarrassed that they're 50%. And so maybe we'll see something for that. And just congratulations to everybody on that 95.6%. And I know that we have had discussions on what's beneath that 95.6 to make sure kids are college and career ready. 95, thank you for correcting me. But really just want to, speaking to the seniors today at Everett, and that focus on that high school and beyond, and talking to about 9 students and hearing their and beyond, was just really, really, I think, a testament to the good work. But then also speaking with you, Kathy and Sarah, some of the gaps in teacher appreciation of their role versus passing everything off to the counselors when it comes to the Common App, and the AP teachers that I said my daughter played games. There was no high school and beyond planning in her AP class last year. That I think that there are, we do have some work ahead for that and beyond thing for kids, but just really, really outstanding work for everyone, and thank you.
Thank you. Director Nankar?
This is less perhaps about graduation, but I just had a quick question in regards to perhaps to Dr. Clifford. And then maybe Dr. Black as well, connected maybe. In terms of students with disabilities and connected that with college and career readiness, and I know we had a very successful summer with internships and all that. For that demographic, were we able to provide any opportunities for kids, or was there any participation, interests and such?
So we create lots of opportunities, and that was part of that community partner breakfast. And we're bringing our partners into the schools at the high school to increase exposure to students with disabilities. And we do collaborate very closely with Dr. Riley Black's area and her team members to align our work and opportunities for students.
Do we know if you had any interest from any of our students?
I believe so, but I don't have the data in front of me right now to speak to that.
I think you're talking about the Everett Career Link summer internship program. And I don't know if there were any special needs students. But I didn't see that in any of the categories that were recruited. Of the 50 that completed the 90 hours, I didn't see that as a designation. But please know that that was our launch year to get the mechanics going. And so we're working pretty closely together because so it's a great question.
I just bring it up because I feel up to a certain extent, just anybody with disabilities, whether you continuing studies or work or career, whatever it is, it's the relationship building point of it. And if you're able to do that as early as possible, then you've created authentically a pathway to something, as opposed to, oh, you're done, you're ready, just like an average student, and you send them off the way. And, it's not necessarily, I don't know. But thank you.
I would say actually that's for all our students is our goal. Yeah.
But then I just want,
Yeah. Director Burke?
I just had a quick question, just with the 2020, the road to 2020, do we know how many of those kids could have graduated with the 24? I guess what I'm looking for is kind of what our delta is going to be. So let's say we didn't have a waiver for this year. It's like, okay, they had to do 24. What would the actual graduation rate look like? And then kind of lay that over kind of our planning for the next few years.
Sure, but we don't know for 2020, but if you're talking about the 2019 for that, for the students that just graduated.
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked at that. About 72% of our students graduated with 24 credits.
Okay, so there was
However, some of our students had time, like there are various reasons that they may have stopped. Maybe they were at the alternative school and they stopped when they got to 22. So I don't think the gap is 28%, but there's a gap.
But there's definitely a gap.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do know seniors that choose to take four classes.
Correct. This is all I know I need, so I'm going to take an early release or late arrival for my senior year.
I have one of those.
But yes, definitely there's a gap, and it's something we're looking at.
Any additional questions, student representatives or comments? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see, moving on to section 13.0, information discussion. And tonight we do not have an information or discussion item scheduled. which takes us to unfinished business. And Mr. Fleckenstein is going to review the adoption of policy 4207 with us.
While revisions to policy 4207, regulation of firearms and dangerous weapons on school district property, are provided for second reading and adoption. In response to directors' questions during the first reading at the November 19th, 2019 board meeting, staff researched the intent of the revised language regarding the prohibition of any knife on school district property. After consultation and research of the intent of the statute by district staff, it was determined that the new language regarding the prohibition of any knife on school district property would be retained. Retention of the language best serves the district's commitment to proactively ensure the safety of our students and community while on district property. The proposed revisions to policy 4207, regulation of firearms and dangerous weapons on school district property, have been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Directors, do you have any questions regarding policy 4207? Or additional questions? Okay, there was some information provided in the Friday report, so I think most of the questions did get answered. With that, we'll go ahead and I would entertain a motion to approve policy 4207.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to adopt policy 4207, regulation of firearms and dangerous weapons on school district property. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, no. The motion carries. Thank you. That takes us to new business, and we have a couple policies to review in new business tonight. First policy is 3204, prohibition of harassment, intimidation, and bullying.
Well, proposed revisions to policy 3204, prohibition of harassment, intimidation, and bullying, are to comply with changes to the required harassment, intimidation, and bullying law now codified under RCW 28A 600-477. One of these changes is the requirement to adopt the WASDA model policy language by January 31st, 2020. In addition, each school district must provide to the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction, OSPI, a brief summary of its policies, procedures, programs, partnerships, vendors, and instructional and training materials prohibiting harassment, intimidation, and bullying. Revisions also include changing the title from Prohibition of Harassment, Intimidation, and Bullying to Prohibition of Harassment, Intimidation, or Bullying. Revisions to Policy 3204, Prohibition of Harassment, Intimidation, and Bullying, have been reviewed by Policy Review Council, Legal Counsel, and the Superintendent's Cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding policy 3204?
I just have one quick question. The cross out of name calling, because name calling can be quite, my maiden name could become derogatory.
Yeah, and so on the screen, when it says defined in legislation, harassment, intimidation, or bullying means any intentional, in this case, verbal act, including but not limited to one that physically harms a student or is persistent, pervasive, or severe, that it creates an intimidating or threatening environment. So name calling, although there's many different types of harassment, intimidation, or bullying, many forms of it, without creating exhaustive lists of every single thing that possibly would fall under that could be construed as that. This definition change that we're adopting here covers that because of its impact on the targeted student.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a question kind of similar. Why was hazing crossed out?
Again, instead of listing every possible form of harassment, intimidation, or bullying, here that would be a physical act, right? That physically harms a student or damages their property.
So they feel like
it
it's
catches any
covered.
form of that. Yeah, whether somebody labels it as hazing or somebody calls it bullying or whatever it may be, that definition in statute now covers all such acts.
And I guess the statement too that we're both looking at says not limited to.
Yes.
So that does broaden that list to innumerable things.
Absolutely,
Okay.
as opposed to a list for which we leave something out, and then somebody could say, well, that's not in your definition.
Thank you.
Yep.
I also like the fact that you went from victims to targeted students, because sometimes a victim could just be one or two people, but targeted students could be a lot larger group. And, I'm glad they changed that.
Well, it gives the power to.
It encompassed more people could be involved than just one or two people that were targeted, in a sense. Not saying targets, you know what I mean.
Yeah, thank you for the feedback.
Any further questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, by general consent, we'll move it for second reading. That takes us to policy 6100, revenue from local, state, and federal sources.
And finally, revisions to policy 6100, revenues from local, state, and federal sources, are presented this evening to align our current policy with WASDA's model policy and to integrate new requirements established by the legislature pertaining to local enrichment levies and local effort assistance. The revised RCWs provide regulatory guidance on the allowable uses of enrichment levies, requirements for OSPI approval of enrichment levy plans prior to placement on a ballot, and additional audit requirements. Also included are WASDA's updates to the policy sections on state and federal revenues. The proposed revisions to policy 6100, revenues from local, state, and federal sources, have been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
Is there any reason why it mentions Indian children instead of Native American children?
That is how it's written in the model policy. We can revise that to be more in line with the board's language in terms of identifying different groups of students, or we'd happy to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you for catching that.
Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none, do we have an option to move that to second reading pending the suggested change? Okay, we'll go ahead and do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We're moving on to section 16.0, upcoming agenda items. Dr. Salzman, please review our upcoming agendas.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, staff, for your presentations. At the January 14th regular meeting, we will discuss the following: the math performance report, first quarter financial report, the November financial report, and the board annual regular meeting schedule for 2021.
Okay, that was short. Section 17.0 is executive or closed session. And tonight, we do not have an executive or closed session. So we will move on to section 18.0, which is adjournment. That concludes the business scheduled to come before Everett Public Schools Board of Directors. This meeting is adjourned.
Happy holidays and see you next year.